welcome back. So today we are going to do some acrylic paint pouring with rocks. So this is a super fun activity and a lot of people do this kind of activity with a canvas, but we are actually going to do it with rocks today. So I'm just going to actually go over what you're going to need for this craft, and you really don't need a lot. So you're going to need some rocks. Mine are a bit on the small end. If you want to get bigger ones, that's perfectly fine. I do suggest river rocks. They are usually round and more flat than an average rock. So you're going to need some acrylic paint. So I've got all the colors here that I want to use for this craft. You're going to need anything that you can mix with. I'm going to use straws, but you can also use popsicle sticks as well if you want. You're going to need some plastic cups. So you're going to need as many plastic cups as you have colors. So for example, I have 6 acrylic paints here. So you're going to need 6 plastic cups. And then you're going to need some sort of pouring medium. So these you can get at a craft store. And for me, I got mine at Julianne's in Chilliwack. And you can use a bunch of different things, just honestly any sort of pouring medium, but for reference, this is the one that I'm using if you want to use the same one. And then finally here, I've made my own kind of place for the rocks to sit on so that I can pour the paint over and the paint can flood underneath. So I literally just took a pie plate and then I stuck some skewers through it to hold the rocks up so that when I pour the paint over my rocks, the paint just sits on the bottom and the rocks aren't sitting in a pool of paint. So that's what you're gonna need for this craft. So go ahead and gather those supplies, come back, and then we'll get started. Okay, so now that you have all of the supplies in front of you, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start mixing in our colors with our pouring medium. So what I'm going to go ahead and start doing is I'm going to take my acrylic paint and just put some paint at the bottom of my cups. And in each cup I'm going to do a different color. So just put some at the bottom. It doesn't really matter how much. I'm doing probably like a couple teaspoons. So just start filling each of your cups with your acrylic paint. And as you can see, I have some newspaper down, and that's just to prevent getting paint all over my working space. You can also do this outside, that's perfectly fine. It works well if you do it outside. Okay, so now that I have all of my colors in each of my cups here, this is when you're gonna take your pouring medium and make sure you have your straws or your popsicle sticks, whatever you're going to use to stir, ready to go. And we are actually just going to add as much of this pouring medium as we need to make it so that the color isn't really thick. It shouldn't be so thick that you cannot pour it. But it can't be too thin either. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna adjust the camera for you a little bit so you can see better what I'm doing. So go ahead and grab your pouring medium and get that ready. Okay, so here's a bit of a better angle for you so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna start pouring in some of my pour medium. So start with a little bit at a time, and then take your straw or whatever you're using to mix with. So this looks like it's actually going to be good. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. So you don't need a lot of pouring medium. So I only use a little bit, and it seemed to be just enough. So I'm just gonna start with a little bit in each. Because it's definitely better to start with too little versus too much, because as soon as you add too much and it's too thin, then you're not going to be able to use it, because it has to still be thick enough that it will stick to the rock. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So just mix each of your colors. And again, I'm using a different straw for each color because I don't want to start mixing my colors. So just keep doing that. Okay, I'm on to my last color here. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, so there's that, and as you can see, it's still runny, but it's not too thin. Like if it's as thin as water, it's probably not gonna work for what you want it to do. It probably will just slide right off the rocks. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to grab a empty plastic cup, and we are going to start pouring over our rocks. So I will be right back to show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rocks as well as my tray, and then we are going to get started. Okay, so go ahead and grab whatever colors that you want to use for each rock. So for this rock, I want to use strictly a mix of blue and white. So what I'm gonna start doing is I'm actually gonna start with my white here, and in my empty cup, I'm going to pour some of the white paint in the bottom, like that. Okay, so I didn't use all of it yet, so make sure that coats the bottom. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pour blue on top. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my white again. I'm gonna try and use up all my paint here. I'm gonna try and use up as much white as I have. I'm just going to pour the white on top. I'm gonna try and get all of it out of there. Perfect. And then again, I'm gonna do the same thing with the blue. So we're layering our colors right now. Okay, so now I have layers of blue and white in my cup here. So I'm gonna move the camera a tiny bit closer up so you can see exactly how this will pour over our rocks. Okay, so we are ready to pour over our rock. So this rock is slanted, so I'm actually just gonna pour on top. And it's making its way down. Just like that. So we got a really, really neat looking pattern already. So what you can do is, if you're not happy with a pattern that you get, for example, you can pick up your rock and kind of twist it and turn it. For example, like this, if I wasn't happy with my design, I could tip it up, turn it, let the paint kind of slide around a little bit if you're not happy with your design. But that worked out really nicely. I got a really cool layering design with my blue and white. Yeah, and it's really as simple as that. So there is rock number 1. Now we're gonna move on and do a couple different rocks with different colors. Okay, so for my next rock, I'm gonna use pink and yellow. So you can absolutely use as many colors as you want. I am just choosing to use 2 colors for right now. But if you wanna use all 6 colors on one rock, that's perfectly fine. It's the exact same process. So again, I've got an empty cup here. So I'm just gonna grab my yellow and I'm going to pour some of my yellow paint in the bottom. So it's really important that you layer the paint colors because that's what gives you the really nice design. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the pink now and put it right on top. So if you were using more than 2 colors, just grab each color and continue layering them. So I'm gonna grab my yellow again and put more yellow on top. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish off my pink here. Okay, so I've put the pink and yellow in layers, as you can see. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna again move the camera a little bit closer so you can see how I can pour it really nicely on top. Okay, so this rock here is a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna pour directly on the middle and then swirl it around. Okay, just like that. So I didn't get as much of a contrast as I did with the white and blue, but I still got a really neat pattern here as it was sliding on my rock. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to do 1 or 2 more rocks and then we will be done this video. So go ahead and grab the other colors that you wish to use and the other rocks that you need to paint and we'll get started. Okay, so I have another rock here and for this one I'm going to use green and orange. I feel like those are really high contrasting colors, so I think they will mix together really nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with my green. It doesn't matter what color you start with. There's no like specific way that it needs to be done, just in case you were wondering. And I'm gonna start with my orange here on top. And then I'm gonna take my green again, put more green on top of the orange. And then I'm gonna pour the rest of my orange on top of the green. Perfect. So we've got really nice layering there. And I'm gonna move the camera a little closer and then we are gonna pour this on top of our rock. Okay, so this rock is relatively flat. So again, I'm just gonna pour right on top. And I'm gonna kind of swirl as I go. Wow, that is really neat. Okay, so I got a really cool contrast there with the green and the orange. So that one worked really well as well, kind of similar to how the blue and white one worked out. So that's a really neat color combination to use as well if you're doing this at home yourself. So that is just a couple examples of how acrylic paint pouring works. It's very simple to do and it's actually really fast to do as well. It's a really great summer craft to do outdoors. It doesn't take very long and it doesn't require a lot of ingredients or supplies. Yeah, it's just a really fun thing to do. If you want to get really fancy with your rocks here, you can go ahead and buy a really shiny gloss sealer for your rocks after they are done drying completely. You definitely don't have to. It just kind of depends if you want that really glossy, shiny texture on the outside. But you're gonna wanna let these dry for 24 hours before you add any sort of sealer. So if you do choose to add a sealer, you need these to be completely dry before you add on that coating. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope that you were able to follow along quite easily, and I really hope that you send me photos of your results because I would love to see what you made and what colors you chose to use. So yeah, let these dry overnight. Do not touch them or move them, otherwise your patterns might shift around. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.